So it really is, everybody is scared, because the moment you try to speak out and just ask for fairness, you get called names, you get death threats, you get the TRAs ringing up your employers, trying to get you sacked, trying to get you unemployed. There's not been respectful debate on both sides of this. It has to be out in the open. It's shine the light on everything to find solutions for everybody, and that's what this has always been about from my side. It's never been about excluding trans people. It's been about promoting fair sport. And I've spoken to many Scottish athletes, many retired swimmers. I get athletes calling me every single week. I get coaches calling me every single week. I get a lot of coaches in tears because they don't know what the hell to do. They don't know how to deal with this. I think it's terribly important that governing bodies talk to their athletes. Cycling has been the worst at not asking its athletes, its female athletes in particular, what they think. They have totally and utterly ignored them. And when they went to an advisory panel to decide to check on their transgender rules, that consisted of a transgender female athlete who actually, when they were competing as a male athlete, received a drugs ban for cheating and Stonewall. And they not once asked a single female athlete. So, it's so disrespectful that we don't even get a voice in our own competitions. It's untrue, really. So, I would love to see more people coming out and speaking, and I think we're very, very strong if we speak together. And in fact, with regards to Emily Bridges, the reason that Emily didn't get to race in that particular race that we all know about was because the girls did come together behind the scenes and said, we will not race. And their coaches came together and said, we will not let the girls race. So they underestimate how powerful and strong they are, but it's difficult when you've got governing bodies telling them to be quiet, and you've got sponsors telling them to be quiet, and they're only just making enough money to pay their bills, because it's not like swimmers, and athletes and cyclists make an absolute fortune. They really don't. They're not footballers. They make just enough money usually to pay their bills. So it is very, very tough. But the good news is that FINA this weekend, which is the world governing body, I'm very hopeful that they might bring some strong rules out. What we do need is for someone to break cover. We need a government, we need a party, we need a governing body. We've got all the evidence. We've had this wonderful report of UK Sport, which was in October last year, and it categorically, in black and white, said you cannot have inclusion and fairness in the women's category. So how is it just okay to go, then women can't have fair sport?
Can I respond to that as well? So I've followed this debate for some years, but it was only about a year ago that I started speaking out after reading a tweet from Sharon which said, if you're silent, you're complicit in this, and she's absolutely right. I have a lot of sympathy with female athletes, especially the currently competing ones, because they have a lot to lose. Their job is to train and compete, not to make sports officials do their jobs properly. But since I've spoken out, I have had 2 fairly major abuse episodes, but to be honest, the numbers of people supporting me have been overwhelmingly greater. I have complete strangers contacting me every week to say, thank you so much for defending women's sport. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for being brave. I agree with you 100%. It's not transphobic. This is about the rights of women and girls. So my message out for female athletes out there and supporters of female athletes, fathers of daughters, people with sisters and nieces and female cousins or pupils in their classes, they can't cancel all of us.
You've come all the way up to do this press conference. Do you want to appear before the committee?
If they ask me, I spoke to Brian. Brian was on the phone to me, a month ago, and said, would you? And I said, absolutely, I would happily do it. Because again, I have so many people that do speak to me, and I feel like a bit of a conduit at the moment because they are frightened to speak out for themselves.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of my... I've spoken to quite a few Scottish swimmers, as you'd imagine, very successful swimmers, and they would not speak out. They are scared of how it will impact them.
I wrote to the committee after their sport evidence session, and I've just received a reply saying they're not going to be holding any further sessions on sport.
What do you say to that?
They need to listen to female athletes, and they need to listen to people who care about women's sport. Right now, who could become the sports stars of the future and win medals for Scotland. Are you happy for them to quit sport award? Females are routinely excluded from things of value such as podium places, prizes, points, Focus on teams.
I do think the SNP have to be very, very careful here because they're not asking the right people. They're asking the people they want to hear the answers from. You know, and the whole point is to listen to the people. But also, if you're going to have any form of select group of people, you need to have it cross-party, you need to have it cross-opinion, and you need to back it all up with 100% fact. And as much as I believe people are entitled to identify however they like, a feeling can never trump a fact. You know, how on earth do we apply laws to a feeling? I don't understand how people can say my feeling is more important than your fact, when we don't even know how their feeling might change the next day or the next week, or where does my feeling in all of this come into this? No one ever asks the feelings of the girls that get left behind. You know, it's only about the feeling of the person who gets to usurp her and go in. So, you know, I just think feelings are not what we should be basing laws and rules on.
Sport used to be inclusive for everybody until gender identity ideology arrived and infiltrated the world of sport. If categories didn't exist, the only people who would get a look in would be adult, able-bodied males, since they're the group which have the greatest physical abilities. In sports like boxing, only the heaviest males would get a look in. We all recognise that sport should be for everyone, and therefore categories existed for those who have lesser physical abilities than adult able-bodied males. And by that I mean females, children, people with disabilities, and lighter individuals. These categories created fairness for everybody, not just adult able-bodied males, and therefore made sport inclusive for everybody. As we all know, fairness is the central essence of sport, and without it, sport stops being sport and instead becomes theatre. Until recently, these categories were unremarkable. Everyone accepted them and obeyed the rules. Then gender identity ideology came along, and the category of sport, by which I mean male or female, was done away with. Sports organisations everywhere created rules which allow males into female sports. Therefore, fairness and inclusion for females, which previously existed, ceased to exist. Some of these rules require males to undergo medical treatment, but in practice in the UK in many sports, access to female sport by males is purely by self-ID. This means women's sport, by which I mean sport for females only, effectively no longer exists. What continues to exist is men's sport, i.e. sport for males, and mixed sport, i.e. sport for both sexes. Whether or not males actually participate in what was women's sport is not relevant. They are allowed to currently, and therefore at any moment, one or more males could pop up and decide to participate. The end of a category exclusively for females only means the end of fairness for females, because males have massive physical advantages compared to females, which are not fully removed by testosterone suppression,